views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello everyone, welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Chari Executive Suite, where we continue to keep you updated on our New York state of quarantine and the impact it's having on our local community. I'm your host, Y Café con Leche, Rhina Valentin, with you every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll speak to Councilwoman Diana Ayala of the 8th District about the COVID-19 cases in NYCHA, the unemployment rate in New York City, as well as her self-recovery from COVID-19. After that, we'll discuss what a limited summer looks like as New York gradually begins to reopen and what this might mean for students and parents. We'll discuss more with NYCDOE Parent Leader Kaliris Salas-Ramirez. Then we'll find out how you can stay safe and participate in the New York City Quarantine Film Festival. Later on in the show, Bobby C. brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, the Open Artist Spotlight features award-winning poet Elisabet Velasquez, who will recite one of her new pieces titled Mommy and Papi Go Outside During Quarantine. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way because now we are officially open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online during these social distancing times. And make sure to tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, you can always find me on those platforms, Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. Love to hear from you. So low-income communities continue to get hit hard by COVID-19. And according to the mayor's office, there are approximately close to 6,600 people confirmed to have contracted the virus at NYCHA, with a total of approximately 1,241 that have died. And in addition to the impact, government housing is dealing with having such large population of residents, predominantly Black and Brown. Many people are also still filing unemployment and are relying on government to assist in every which way possible. And so joining us to share more, we welcome Councilwoman of the 8th District, Diana Ayala. Hi, Diana.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, and blessings to you, because I know you just beat this silent enemy.
I did. I got sick in early April. It was really the most interesting because I really hadn't even gone out. I went out twice after the pause was put in place, and it was as easy as that. I thought I was protecting myself, and unfortunately became ill. My husband became ill, my mother, my sister, my daughter. So there were several of us that got sick.
And how long were you ill?
I was sick for about 2 weeks. I started with a really bad chronic cough one day, and I thought, well, this is kind of odd. And then I remember taking Robitussin because I suffer from allergies too, and I get this chronic cough anyway. So I thought maybe it has something to do with that, but it wouldn't go away. It just would not go away. And then the next day, I started to feel like, feverish. And I took my temperature, and now I'm like, oh my goodness, now I have the cough and I have a slight fever. So I was able to consult with a doctor via telehealth, and they suggested that I start quarantining because, in all likelihood, that's what it was. And then throughout as the illness progresses, you start to get, other symptoms like the loss of sense of smell, sense of taste, really bad headaches, horrible fatigue. But we were very fortunate in that we didn't get any respiratory, issues, which, we know affected so many of our neighbors.
Right. And speaking of neighbors, let's talk about NYCHA, because NYCHA is getting hit really hard. And I know you represent the Bronx and Manhattan. However, it's horrendous, because there were issues with NYCHA prior to this. I can only imagine how the people are dealing and coping with these current circumstances. I mean, the buildings themselves were struggling with keeping gas on, and now, the cleanliness. It's just, I can't even imagine.
I know, my hair stand, because they were already suffering from so many health related issues. We had mold, we had lead, no heat, sometimes no hot water, and it's NYCHA has become a public health nightmare. And the people that live there, thankfully they're so resilient, and they have coalesced around this pandemic and really try to rescue themselves, right? Because government wasn't coming to help them. And so I happen to represent a district with the highest number of public housing stock of any other council member in the city, and it's been really overwhelming. But at the same time, it's not something that is surprising, right? It shouldn't surprise any of us, because we've been saying, this all along. You have, so many people, you have so much density in a community, and that density of, there's density everywhere, but when we talk about the millions of people that are living in overcrowded situations already, that are immune compromised already, something like this was just a disaster in waiting, right? And so I hope that at least we walk away from this with some lessons learned on how to, I think one of the things that really pissed me off, and I'll use that word pissed me off because it's the accurate, description of how I felt, is that, there was no one coming to really speak to families, low-income families that were oversaturated, families that were really overwhelmed about the possibility that they may be impacted, right? And to really guide them through the best practices that will help keep them and their families safe. We were the last, right, in the totem pole. And so, I get that the priority went to hospitals and all of that, because that was necessary, but nobody came to rescue us. And that was really devastating.
And so how has the testing on site resolved anything? I mean, it's I get that it's important for everyone to be tracked and to really get an estimated number of how many people have contracted. But at the end of the day, what kind of resolve is being implemented?
I think that we're all learning, and I think this is experimental, to be honest with you. I think that it's helpful to know, where the highest numbers, came from. And then, and why, right? So that, again, we're better prepared in the future. But I think testing, the issue with the testing is we had the state designated certain developments that will go first. So like in the East Harlem, we have Washington houses. I think in the Bronx, they may be doing Patterson soon. But people are not getting tested, right? So we don't, some people are, but for the most part, a lot of our testing sites are sitting there empty, and
right.
we need people to go and get themselves tested as soon as possible.
Right, I hear you. And so, but then there's also the issue of the establishment being sanitized, right? I mean, people may not want to leave their houses if they're feeling that they're not living in cleanly environment. It's kind of like you're doomed if you do, and you're doomed if you don't.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. I get it. But I think it's important, listen. This is gonna be our new normal for a really long time, right? And we are all kind of adapting and trying to figure out how to continue to live our lives in the healthiest way possible, while not allowing this pandemic to really, stagnate us to the point that it's crippling, right? It's very crippling. There's mental health implications to this. There are financial implications to this. There are also, I live in a family with 7 people, right? My mother and my father are really, really sick. So that weighs really heavily on my mind, and I'm sure that it weighs heavily on the minds of my constituents as well. So I get that, but it's important to know if you have or have not contracted, this illness, because too many of us are walking around with no symptoms, right?
Right.
And so we're continuing to feed into it, and we're continuing to introduce this into our households. And, you know, we're learning now that more and more children are becoming sick, right? And so we want to just learn, you know, everything that we can about this disease so that we're better prepared to address it.
All right, so we have to wrap up, but in closing, is there anywhere you would like to direct people that could assist them with regards to anything related to this, to testing, to unemployment, to food? Is there anywhere in particular that people should be looking to seek whatever assistance they're in need of?
Yeah, well, you should know as a viewer that our offices are still open. So if you need to be connected to food, if you're having issues filing for unemployment or getting a response, if you need to be connected to anything, to legal services, if you're a renter and you're concerned about, you know, making payments, that our offices are still working and operational. My number is 212-828-9800. And, you know, we're just working remotely. We're different setting, but we're still trying to get people connected. The schools are still offering grab and go meals. Those are 3 meals a day. Doesn't matter what age. Your local food pantry should be fully equipped, you know, to service you. But, you know, if you want more specific information about the community that you live in, we're here to serve you. In the South Bronx, our number is 347-297-4922.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for taking the
so
time to
much.
be with us. Yes.
Thank you. And stay safe.
And you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, once again, be sure to follow Councilwoman Diana Ayala, who's out there for us. Her Twitter is at Diana Ayala, NYC. And for more updates on District 8 and COVID-19, be sure to check out her website, which is, what's your website?
It's actually New York City Council.nyc.gov.
Got it. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll discuss summer amid the pandemic. Don't go anywhere.
Why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others.
For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Welcome back to our remote version of Open. Summer is quickly approaching and nearly 180,000 students are slated for summer school, while camps are left with a decision on whether they will open for the season or not. Well, what will this mean for parents and students for that matter? Joining us to tell us more, we welcome NYCDOE Parent Leader and Distinguished Medical Lecturer at the CUNY School of Medicine, Dr. Kaliris Salas-Ramirez.
Thanks, Rhina. Hi, everybody.
How are you today?
I'm good. You know, we're dealing with lots of things right now as parents and working moms.
I know. I mean, you know, just to share with our viewers a little bit, you're a single mom. In addition to what you do as an occupation, you have 2 children. One is a newborn, and you are my go-to person for resources. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
And so I really wanted to open up the conversation with regards to everything that is available to parents right now, based on the fact that, you know, we're all wearing multiple hats, and now we're entering into this new phase of summer school, and the fact that there is limitations with pools and beaches and all that. What does this look like for our kids?
Yeah, it's interesting. So recently, as of last week, the Department of Education announced that there will be summer school for children. They will deliver the summer school by way of remote learning. It will start on July 6th and it will last 6 to 7 weeks. It's mid-August is the final date, starting from 8:30 in the morning till 12:30 for 3rd to 8th graders. And then for high school students, it will be from 8:30 to 1:30 in the afternoon. Children that received promotion and doubt letters throughout the year are the ones that are required to attend summer school. And then there can be some children that can be recommended for summer school. They will still be promoted to the next grade, but they are highly encouraged to engage in summer school. The Department of Education is also setting up resources for parents that just want their children to engage in different ways. And so on the Department of Education website, there will be resources for parents to use throughout the summer to help their kids engage in different educational activities, as well as virtual tours. And so they will have access to those resources. They're really focusing on the kids from pre-K to second grade, because those kids are not required to go to summer school.
Right.
So that parents actually have something that they can do with their children.
So you recently also sent me some information with regards to this new program, this EBT program for kids in school. And I think it's so important that we share this with our viewers.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit more on what the qualifications are for that?
So if you have a child in a public school, you are eligible to receive $420 for food services. So every single child, because New York City provides free food for all students, every single child, independent of whether you have SNAP or an EBT card, you are eligible for this sort of stimulus that our children are getting. If you already have food services or SNAP and an EBT card, that money will be deposited into your card per child in 2 payments, one currently now in May, and hopefully parents already have it, and then another payment in June for a total of $420 per child.
And so, wait, I wanted just to, sorry, I think it's important that we help those who don't have it understand that they also qualify for it and what
Absolutely.
they need to do in order to start the process.
So they don't need to do anything. As long as your child is registered in a public school, you don't need to do anything. So after that wave, they'll come in 3 payments. So after that wave of parents that already have an EBT card getting their deposit, then parents that their children have Medicaid or other social services, they will be receiving their $420 also in the form of an EBT card. The final wave will be for parents that don't receive any sort of financial services. They will receive an EBT card in the name of their child in July or August. So the Department of Education is strongly recommending that everybody use their cards. This money is not transferable. You can't give your card to somebody else. So if you're a parent that doesn't really need that money, those $420, you know, privileged and you have the resources, the Department of Education is strongly recommending that you spend the money at a local store and support local businesses, and then donate whatever it is that you have purchased to a family, to your school, to a pantry. But this is meant as a form of, again, stimulus, so that we can support our local business and we can support our children.
Nice. And so it's an automated system that's just going to automatically happen.
Yep,
for
it's
everyone.
For everyone. So the important thing is that you remember that it is per child. So if you already have an EBT card, you're going to get $420 for every child that is in your household. And so if you don't, you're going to get individual cards for each child.
For each one. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's very important information, especially because the summer's coming in.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to close with this other notice that you provided me with FACE. FACE is an acronym for the, what is it? The Office of
Family and Community Empowerment Office at the Department of Education. So that's basically the liaison between parents and the Department of Education.
And so how can people partake in this? Because what you sent me was a schedule of the different boroughs. And it seems to me like they're offering these town halls on a virtual level.
Yes. So currently there's a lot of conversation in the Department of Education about admissions policies, particularly admissions to middle school and high school. We understand now that for the last couple of months, children will not be receiving letter grades or number grades. So that is a different way of presenting a student's progress. In addition, this year, no student took a state exam. And so there are schools that require certain grades, the state exams. They use that as a form of admissions policies in their practices. And so now we really have to look at how COVID is going to impact the admissions policies for different children. And so there are going to be town halls starting tonight, one per borough. So today is the Bronx. Tomorrow, I don't remember.
Okay, so what it would be from Friday is what we would be offering as a resource to our people, because they're going to be seeing this on Friday.
All right, so Friday is Staten Island, Monday is Manhattan, and I think Tuesday is Queens. But they can go to the Department of Education. Everybody can sign up to speak. However, you have a limit of 90 seconds if you want to speak about the admissions policies that are going to be used. In addition, it's not a sure thing that you will be chosen. So the town halls will last exactly 2 hours. They have slots for the presidents of the community education councils, which is our version of a board of education, but that is made up by parent leaders, of which I am part of.
Right.
They have a slot for the president of the President's Council, which is a body of all PTA, PA presidents, and then they will engage the community.
Got it. You're amazing. You know, I adore you, and you're always my go-to person for resources. So thank you again for taking the time, being a single mom, 2 children. The newborn is how long? How old now?
9 months.
9 months. And you're a professor as well. I mean, blessings to you, my sister. And thank you again for all your knowledge and for sharing it with our viewers. Is there anything, any last words that we need to share with everyone?
So I think the main conversation right now is what it looks like when we reopen schools. So I just want everybody to be paying attention and looking out for forums for parents that they can use to voice their opinions on what schools should look like coming in the fall.
Yeah, because God knows, as mothers, we're over the remote learning.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love you too. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Rhina, for your time.
And you guys, once again, for more on Kaliris, Salas-Ramirez, even though she's my go-to person, perhaps she could be yours. Go to @DRKYSR. And that's on Twitter. All right. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about a quarantine film festival beginning in June. Don't go anywhere.
Who's most at risk for coronavirus? People over 65, people with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes, people undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people. Avoid crowds. Stay home if you can. Wash your hands frequently. Learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open Remote. Inwood Artworks is all about supporting local uptown artists and or subjects related to Inwood. They were slated to have a huge film festival and workshops, and now, due to the stay-at-home order, the organization has redefined their FilmWorks programming with the New York City Quarantine Film Festival. Festival will allow people to get creative while also staying safe during this pandemic. Joining us to tell us more, we welcome Inwood Artworks founder and executive producer, Aaron Sims. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Rhina. Good to see you again.
Likewise. It's good to see people in general.
Exactly. We're not slapping hands full of sanitizer anymore. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's right. Oh my gosh, that's right. That was our last time together. I mean, we were over there making, jokes of it. Not really jokes, making light of the situation.
Right.
Meanwhile, we were already ahead of the game.
We were definitely ahead of the game, and we're still here to tell the tale.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that you just went and converted into whatever remote presentation that also is relevant to our times, because I personally feel that anything that's created during this time period is going to be capsulized and valued on a whole nother level. So let's talk a little bit about what created this whole festival, the new festival.
Sure. So obviously we were one of the very first to cancel. Actually, I think we canceled our festival around May. Oh, I don't know, March, like 9th or 10th or 11th, around that time before we did our film festival. And I just kept on thinking to myself, and I kept walking around our community as our socially distant walks were allowed at the time to get some exercise, to see how I was walking up 242 and back and around the Bronx and Inwood and Washington Heights, thinking, like, how can I be useful right now? Like, what can I do to be useful? And obviously, when you're on the community business, so to speak, by doing live events to bring your community together and using art as a platform to create that community, you're very limited when you're not allowed, when you don't want to put people in harm's way. So I kind of took what we do best by bringing people together, but use a different platform. By actually using the virtual platform and saying, hey, this is free, and also opening up citywide too, because if we've learned anything from this pandemic, we're a global community, and also we're also definitely New York being the epicenter is one city. We are New York tough. We are all together and being one community. So I wanted to give all 5 boroughs a chance to participate, because we're all in this together, and we're all experiencing the same experiences. So people have, hopefully with time on their hands, they can find something positive and creative, and that's how I thought I could be useful by creating this idea of a New York City quarantine film festival, so people could stay safe by obeying, the CDC guidelines, as well as give themselves something positive and creative, an outlet for them. Perhaps they're not even a professional filmmaker. Perhaps they're an aspiring student or just have interests. Maybe it gave them something to do. But yeah, that's my hope, is to throw a lifeline out there to people in our community to say, hey, this is something great. And I do believe what you said. It's like, we're going to look back on this as a time capsule, and yes. I think it'll be a nice, hopefully a light in the darkness, so to speak, where people can kind of commune and show that they were creative and productive during a time that wasn't so great for a lot of people.
Right. It's beautiful too, because it will serve as an outlet of coming together in another form. Unfortunately, we are living in this virtual day and age, and I say unfortunately because we're being detached from each other physically, and so the only way we can really commune is through these methods. And so to artistically execute it, I think is another wonderful opportunity to just release. And so what are the criteria that need to be met in order to qualify for the film festival?
It's very wide and very, very inclusive. So our whole thing is that you have to be, obviously films have to be shot while practicing the safety and social distancing guidelines in your quarantined area, whatever that means, the 5 boroughs. Films, we wanted to keep it short because we wanted to keep it inclusive. And that it could be kind of done quickly. You can edit on your phone or your apparatus, or you have your smart pad, whatever. So films should be no longer than 3 minutes in length. They can be a lot less. We wanted films to be shot on people's phones so people can actually take out the middleman. Not everybody has a Red camera lying around their house.
Right. And also so you're inviting people to exercise this possible new choice in life, right? Because people are documenting anyway.
Exactly. So we said we wanted the women should be shot on their phone because we thought that'd be an idea of, again, practicing safety guidelines by using what's already on you. But if people if people want to submit something they have that kind of arsenal at home, by all means, I guess that's fine. But we wanted, again, doing all I can to keep people safe. And then we wanted to have the films submitted in genres of comedy, drama, horror, and kids too. Like there's a category for kids under 12. So we'd love to have them submit by this, by the 29th here, this Friday.
Right, exactly. The 29th of May. And so how many films are being selected and what does that look like with regards to viewership as well? Because I know you're going to launch this on YouTube and people get to participate as being active voters, and there's going to be judging going on, and there's actually going to be an award ceremony afterwards, right?
Yeah, I mean, as much as we can have any kind of ceremony, we'll definitely be posting all the people, and we're kind of like eschewing like this. It's hard to say. There's so many people coming, and the films are coming in clumps now, which is great. And I think we'll have a big push as the hours wind down. But we're going to give again. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be creative and positive. So we're going to highlight 5 films for the Best in Borough Awards. So for the most liked films submitted from Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. And these are all going to be on our YouTube channel. So we're posting everything on our YouTube channel after submissions close on the 1st of June through the 13th of June. So you can go on the YouTube channel. We're creating a playlist at Inwood Artworks on YouTube where it's called the New York City Quarantine Film Festival playlist, where you can go on and you watch the films and you just like the films you like. And then we'll give awards for that.
All right, that's awesome. And when I said an award ceremony, we're doing everything virtually anyway. Perhaps you have a Zoom party of some sort. However, I want to be clear about something though. When you said the 5 boroughs, you're saying there's going to be one winner of each borough, but altogether, how many films are there going to be presented?
Well, we're being incredibly inclusive. So if you follow the criteria, the guidelines, essentially your film's going to be selected. We're being very, very, very inclusive. So as long as it's not absolutely out of bounds, we're probably going to post your film. And we want people to, again, celebrate. We want to celebrate people's work. Right. And so we have, so we'll give out awards up to $250 each for the most liked films from the 5 boroughs, and also for a best comedy, dramatic, horror, and kids film as well. But to your point about a ceremony, we will be at some point, obviously, getting together again. It's inevitable. We are social people. We are. We'll figure this out, and we'll be together again. So the top 10 liked films by the general public, we're going to show them in the public when we get to do our free outdoor film series in the park, Filmworks Al Fresco, next summer. So we're going to aim to show those in the public for people next year, and I think that'll be interesting to look back to this year when we show them.
That's right, because this year's a do-over.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
But they'll get that proper screening. So I think the ceremony, it could be an ongoing party. We can have it virtually right away, and then come back together a year later and celebrate in person with people. It'd be nice.
Well, I love the incentives that you're offering, and thank you for bringing it here with us and sharing it with our viewers. And I say that because you're saying, okay, we're going to screen everything through YouTube, but yet whomever wins is also going to have a full blown out screening next year, providing that we can all come together socially in whatever circumstances the new norm are going to present. Right. That's where I'm going to leave it, because I remain hopeful.
Hey, me too.
All right. Thank you once again, Aaron from the Inwood Artworks. He's executive producer, Aaron Sims. So you guys, I just want to share with you guys that today is the last day to submit your film into the New York City Quarantine Film Festival. And you can do so by going to filmfreeway.com, New York City Quarantine Film Festival. The actual New York City Quarantine Film Festival is going to take place June 1st through the 13th. To vote for your favorite film, you can go to YouTube, Inwood Artworks. All right, don't go anywhere. Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.
This gentleman needs little introduction. Motor racing icon Mario Andretti with us. Mario, how are you?
Wonderful, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You know, your story is pretty much Hollywood material, and I figured that no better time to ask you some questions about what's going on with the world when you consider how far you've come in the world of racing. So, you know, your father comes here to Nazareth, Pennsylvania with $125 in his pocket. You guys coming from a refugee camp, and then you settle here in America and you go on to become, in my book, the greatest race car driver of all time. So at that time, how did you handle uncertainty, and what would be the word of advice that you would give people now in terms of trying to handle the uncertainty of the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, first of all, one thing that I always had in mind, or at least I brought with me, was almost what would be the impossible dream, but I never had a plan B, as I said. So we were able to manage through the ripples on the road and all of that, and you know, and pursue it. Begin 4 years after we arrived here in this country, 1955 and 59. My twin brother Aldo and I just built a car, and we started racing locally, and then never looked back. And so, again, you know, there are certain hardships, obviously, that we had to deal with throughout because of we were basically victims of the war, World War II, and you know, our area of Italy was ceded to Yugoslavia, and we became refugees in our own country. But again, you know, I don't know if you can parallel it with the coronavirus pandemic, but you know, these are things that are life-changing to some degree. I think I hope it's not as life-changing as you know, as a lot of people say. You know, we want to get back to normal as soon as possible. It couldn't happen soon enough, in fact. But the bottom line is, I think we've got to say we have turned the corner. You know, we've got to say that and have that attitude. You know, obviously there's going to be protocol going on, which obviously we should all observe for our best interest, you know, and the health of everyone. But at the same time, we got to get back to work.
I know that you took to social media to give Kevin Harvick some love after his win in the NASCAR race. And I know for me, sitting at home watching that, it felt so great to hear the roar of the engines. I wanted to get your perspective on what it felt like to hear that again.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's finally we were watching the real thing. You know, up to then it was basically virtual TV. You know, with this iRacing that we've been enjoying, obviously, but nothing like the real thing. And again, too bad that you know, we didn't see you know, the grandstands full, especially at Darlington. You know, but it was a great race, and you could see that everybody just they were full of energy to get back to work.
You're still the only man to win the Indy 500, the Daytona 500, and the F1 World Championship. Your name, Mario, is synonymous with speed. And as a wordsmith myself, I wanted to steal a line from Hemingway. They asked him once about writing, and he said, you know, there's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at the typewriter and bleed. As someone that's a race car driver, I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there that sit at home and think to themselves, hey, I can drive fast. I've done it on the highway. I wanted to get your thoughts because I know that first book that you wrote, the classic line there, to steal another line. What's it like out there? What's it like to be a race car driver?
Well, again, for me, it's been a lifetime dream to be able to pursue this, and again, it gave me all the satisfactions that I could have possibly have received from a profession. A lot of people, it's such a non-participant sport, to answer your question, that a lot of people have, a way of discounting the physical side of it and so forth. These are our race drivers, they're not athletes per se. But I think all you have to do is go to a local go-kart, facility and do a 10-lap run there. I mean, not just run, I mean, get on with it. And you'll see that even doing that, you'll be huffing and puffing. So the bottom line is overall, at the end of every race, you pretty much spent. It's something that you prepare for it, and you better be in good shape and to be able to perform properly, perform 10 tenths. You know, if you know that you're giving some performance up because of your physical condition, if you're not ready to give 100% on the last lap as you did the first, you're the only one that knows. You got to look at yourself in the mirror the next day.
Sticking with quotes, you once wrote, I saw this on a pretty cool piece of memorabilia you had inscribed to someone. You said, prepare yourself in every way by increasing your knowledge and adding to your experience so that you can make the most of the opportunity when it occurs. Does that sum up Mario Andretti?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's all about preparation, all about putting in the bank, the most experience, everything that you learn every single day, every race, and you keep an open mind. Obviously, that and if you don't feel you're learning every day or every race, there's something wrong with you. But like I said, it's all about preparation, and the better you're prepared, the more relaxed you feel. It's all about the confidence, and then and that's when you perform the best.
And if everything seems under control, you're probably not going fast enough, right?
You got it. That's qualifying. Obviously, the author of the book that it was in asked me, says, describe to me qualifying. And that's what came to mind. I says, if everything seems under control, you're just not going fast enough. And you have to be at the limit. Like I said, in any competitive sport, if you're leaving anything on the table, you're not gonna get the trophy.
Mario, you're the last American to win the F1 World Championship. Do you think that we will ever see another American win it again?
I hope so. I really do. I think I would love to see an American sooner than later being with one of the top teams. It has to be at least with one of the top 3 teams in Formula One. Otherwise, you have no chance of winning. But I think the U.S. is very important to Formula One. There's a couple of kids. There's one in particular in IndyCar, Colton Herta, who has done a lot of racing in Europe, like since age 15. And his sights are, to get into Formula One someday. And, his dad is a wonderful guy, ex-race driver and a great coach, Brian, again, if I would love to see somebody like that get a proper test in a Ferrari, a Mercedes, or a Red Bull and be evaluated that way. But I think it will do wonders for Formula One, for a fan base here in the United States.
We actually had Colton on the show one-on-one recently, and he spoke with us about the comments that you made about him in the Rob Report and him being the next one, the next you. What made you pick him? Was he the one right at the top of your mind when they asked you that question?
Throughout his young career coming through, he was always a winner. And then you figure, okay, let's see when he gets to the top level. So he gets to the top level, and did he ever perform? I mean, immediately in his first season, he wins 2 races, and not on strategy, on speed. There's a big difference about that. And I mean, especially the last race in Laguna Seca, where he had to fend off 2 of the very best in IndyCar right now. And that's Will Power and Scott Dixon. And he never put a wheel wrong. I was so impressed with that. And, anybody that doesn't pay attention to that, obviously they don't understand. But that's the guy. And obviously we know quite well. I remember when he was just a little kid alongside with his dad, come to the race. I used to call him Spiky, because of the way he used to have his hair, and a mohawk. I love to see that mainly because he wants it. That's the difference.
That's part 1 of our interview with driver of the century, Mario Andretti. Tune in next time. We'll talk a legend of the silver screen turned racer, all that and much more with the legend himself.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Open Remote. So our last guest is a Brooklyn Boricua whose poems are an exploration of her life. She writes about feminism, body positivity, sex, love, mental illness, and education through an intersectional lens. Her work has been featured on NBC, The Huffington Post, and Latina Magazine, and that's just to name a few. And here she's now gonna share with us a little bit more about her upcoming novel set to be published in 2022. Please welcome award-winning poet Elizabet Velasquez.
Thank you, Rhina. Wow.
Wow to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are an inspiration, I got to tell you. I believe the first time we met was at Papo. I'm sorry, Willie Perdomo. He's my boy, so I know him as Papo. TCB, the Crazy Bunch book release party, and you recited there, and I've been clinging on to you ever since, trying to get you on. So I'm so excited to have you.
No, I was so excited to meet you. I was so nervous. I was like, La Reina del Barrio, oh my God. And then I had asked you for one of Willie's books because I was supposed to help him read. And I was like so nervous that I messed up what I was supposed to say. And I was like, she hates me.
Absolutely not. You, I get it. Honestly, Elizabeth, what you have been able to overcome and the truth that you speak, it's just really so inspiring. And honestly, it made me want to get to know you more. And I'm so excited to share a little bit of you and your story and, of course, your poetry with our viewers, because it's very rare you come across truth speakers such as yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like all we got is the truth. You know, they could take everything else away from us. And all that remains is the truth. And so I think it's super, super important for me to explore that truth. And then to write it down, because no one else has what we have, what you have. Only we are in possession of our truth. And so we have to, I think it's our responsibility to write that down so that future generations can see, you know, and hear and have some archives to go back to.
Yeah, but you also write with bravery. I read a long piece that you wrote that was something about insane asylum, or what, I forgot the title of it, but wow, I was just really, I found it to be very brave in how you're just openly sharing of what you've had to overcome to become the woman that you are today, who is this successful poet who's now going to be published. Oh my gosh, by Penguin Publishing House. Congratulations on that.
Thank
too.
You. I know, that's still like wow to me.
That's amazing.
It is. And actually that's really what the book is about, is like this exploration of what success looks like. So it takes you through the life of a young girl. It's based on my life. And a young girl in Bushwick who's not very good at school. But, you know, the way that the educational system is framed and still framed is that if you're not good at school, you can't be successful. And so, you know, back in the 90s, growing up in Bushwick with the war on drugs, it was kind of like, what does success mean if I don't go to school? What does making it mean if I don't graduate? And so that the novel kind of takes us through that journey of exploration of what success is or isn't. And
knowledge, for that matter, right? Because there's book knowledge and there's street knowledge.
Right. And I feel like for a long time, I was very knowledgeable in matters of the hood, or like, in other words, in matters of survival, because you had to be. You had to know what was going to kill you if you wanted to survive. Right. And so a lot of us in the hood were real, like super intellectual, but hood intellectual. But that was heavily discounted in many, many, many places. And so I kind of, with this book, I kind of want to bring that back, right? Like, you know, just because graduate doesn't mean that I'm not a smart person.
Well, there you go, right? And the reason I can relate to you is because I'm a barrio girl. You know, I come from a barrio. I come from my own hood. And I'm saying this because there is a certain street knowledge that you have to pretty much get really smart about if you want to survive. And the truth is a lot of people who are street smart are very smart, and they just need a way to figure out how to convert it into society's way of communicating.
But you know what's funny about that too, and what I find so interesting is that when I got older and I started to kind of get in these circles, these intellectual circles, these academic circles, I realized that a lot of academia is based on the stories of the hood, you know?
Right.
And so the hood is teaching academia, and academia is not giving the hood credit, you know?
Right.
So it's so interesting to me that the same people who are, and we see it now with the essential workers, right?
Right.
Like
exactly.
The world would
example.
stop, right? The world would absolutely stop, but the value that we give is completely just skewed. The value is skewed, and so I'm trying to take some of that power back. I think with this book, and I'm really trying to have these conversations about what we view as successful, what we view as educated, what we view as well-spoken.
And what we view as mental wellness too, because that is your primary topic, and that is what really puts you ahead of the game, because you've been, we can say you can pretty much identify yourself as a mental specialist based on what you've had to overcome.
Yeah. I grew up in a household where everyone was diagnosed with a mental illness, but we didn't talk about that. So I didn't know that was even a thing. It was just, who we were. And it is part of our identity, right? But for a long time, I was taught to be ashamed of that. And so I didn't talk about it because of what I thought the perception would be. And now I have come to realize that all of that is what makes me the woman that I am. And that's powerful as I am. And I think that's why it's so important for me to be vulnerable, and it's so important for me to be honest, because we have to really remove those layers of shame that have been imposed on us. Just centuries.
Well, I thank you for saying that, because with it regards to just humanity in general, we're all dysfunctional in some form or another. It's just a matter of embracing what it is that you've experienced to become who you are and serve the purpose that you're meant to be serving, to enhance the whole movement of just our existence.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, you could tell I felt everything, everything you've written, everything I read that you've written. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can so relate to her. And I'm so grateful to you for finding the time to be here with us. I don't know how busy you are. I don't know if you're busy writing your book, because I know you can go into a zone and not want to be bothered with the world. I know you're also going to share a little something with us. So we're going to take a quick break. And once again, thank you for allowing us a little insight as to how your mind works.
Thank you.
It is so what's up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, for real.
Yeah, no, we're glad to have you, for real. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we return, Elizabet, she's going to recite one of her pieces that, it's been inspired by our state of quarantine. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's now time for this week's Open Artist Spotlight. Here now to perform her poem, Mommy and Papi Go Outside During Quarantine. Please welcome Elizabet Velasquez.
Thank you, Rhina. This poem is called Mommy and Papi Go Outside During Quarantine, and I wrote it during this time, during the pandemic, because I think that, while we're all experiencing the same thing at the same time, we're not all experiencing it in the same way. And so I wrote this poem to try to kind of understand why Mommy and Papi would not stay home. And so this poem, I think, opened the door for empathy, which is what I think that poems can do. Mommy and Papi go outside during quarantine. And it's not that they don't care. It's just that the city made the buses free now. And Papi found out that this is the only time he could get in through the back and not get a ticket. If they didn't want him to travel, they should have raised the fare instead. Have you ever seen Brooklyn when it's free? I mean, I haven't. But I asked him to describe it to me so that I can remember this moment when Papi sounds like he's made it somewhere his body doesn't owe anyone anything. Later, when I called Mommy, she says she's still making trips to the post office. There's no line now, so her legs maze around the retractable belts quick and painless. Mira, que her back might even feel young enough for a walk in the park later, and she heard, but she can't be sure that it's true. So maybe I could use that goggle thing to look it up later, that there's a 3-month grace period for evictions now. So maybe Fulano gets to cook in their kitchen one more time, and maybe Fulana doesn't have to choose between food and rent this month. What an awful relief, I think, to be forgiven for not dying. The news, who has always crowned my city a warning, gave it a new halo. Epicenter, crawling with diseases like Mommy and Papi, who buy bodega coffees brimming with contagion, and abuelas, who would rather wrap their last breath around you than to listen to a government who has never known what distance can do to a person, who has only ever inched closer to make it easier to steal from you. And isn't our breath something we've had to learn to protect anyway? Isn't this the war we were born for? Haven't we always risked our bodies for our humanity? Stay inside, Mommy. Stay inside, Papi. This is the new way I've learned to say goodbye. But what a privilege to stay home and not feel like I am missing out on a morning joyride just 1 block for bodega brewed coffee, or the celebration of not having to wait so long to see if any good news has arrived in the mail.
Woo! Yes! I can relate. We already know. Thank you, Elizabet. You guys, for more on Elizabet, check her out at ElizabetVelasquez.com and on Instagram at Elizabet Velasquez Poetry. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recap cast tonight and 24 hours a day at BxRx.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor. Stay Bronx strong, healthy, and safe. Be blessed.